What do you call a renegade Time Lord pushed to the very edge? Extremissy. Extremis? Missy? No? Sorry folks, it's the best I could do this week. Although I suppose I might as well start by discussing Missy and the revelation that she is indeed the occupant of the vault. Now yes, admittedly it's an obvious twist, we all pretty much guessed this a few weeks back. But there's so much else going on in Extremis that this doesn't really matter. It's executed in a way that is ultimately more satisfying for the audience than it otherwise could have been. For starters, there's the use of flashbacks, which gives a unique and original perspective of events. It's not just like the Doctor is opening the door and Missy's inside, we're seeing it from a different angle. From before the vault was even created, we see the vault emerge from the water and Missy's execution kind of unfold in front of our eyes, eventually leading into scenes with the vault under St. Luke's University that we've seen in the previous 5 episodes. Not only that, but the whole subplot of the vault and of Missy's execution is elaborately woven into the main plot of the episode, making the reveal even more rewarding. I thought the cuts between the scenes in the simulation / hereticum and the execution were really well done. Echoes back to River's diary, for example, and Missy's dialogue, without hope, without witness, without reward, which turns out to be relevant to the Doctor in his present day situation. Because unlike some fans, I can kind of see why the whole Missy thing has been done here, why it's been placed here in the series, and why it was kind of interwoven with the main plot of Extremis, because it does influence it. There are links, and also it's obvious by the end that following the Doctor's experience in the simulation and his battle with the monks, there's a very real chance that he might have to let Missy out very soon. I just love the concept of Missy's execution anyway. It's a surprisingly simple but effective way of creating a scenario in which the whole friends-enemies dynamic between the Doctor and the Master can be explored. While it's an idea that's always been present, ever since Pertwee and Delgado first played the characters opposite each other, the idea that the Master is the Doctor's friend has been much more prominent with Missy, the main reason I love her incarnation of the Master so much. And I'm just really pleased to see this setup, and really hoping that it's going to take the relationship between the Doctor and the Master to new heights later in the series. Certainly I think by the end of the series, by the finale, when we're getting toward the end of the 12th Doctor's tenure, there's going to be some form of closure between the two characters, because, like I say, in all of Missy's stories, there is that subtext about her just being the Doctor's friend. In Death and Heaven, she's got a whole army for him. In The Witch's Familiar, she puts Clara inside a Dalek to kind of make the Doctor see the whole thing about a friend being inside the enemy. And then here, obviously, she's making pleas to the Doctor, you know, saying, I am your friend. So yes, I'm really hoping for some form of closure between Missy and the Doctor before the 12th Doctor's time is up. Of course, Missy is very much rooted in the Moffat era, something which could be said of Extremis itself in a broader sense. It's a classic Moffat story, but as some have suggested, a very refined one. What I mean by that is, it does reuse a lot of his old ideas. There's a library, a simulated universe, the monks trap the Doctor in a way that's very reminiscent of the Pandorica, there's a creepy new foe who have clearly been playing a long game, like the Silence, the list goes on. But all these elements have been stripped back and updated, and carefully considered to create a Doctor episode that pays off certain bits and pieces as it goes along, but also leaves lots open for the rest of the series. There's already a lot of evidence that, structurally, Moffat has planned Series 10 extremely carefully. We've seen that in the first 5 episodes, with the whole Dr. Bill dynamic being given time to really form, and therefore all these elements, reused ideas that were previously limited to 1 or 2 stories, can be developed further because of this. But also, of course, Moffat, as a more experienced writer, in his final year writing Doctor Who, of course, I mean, it's natural for him to want to kind of reuse bits and bobs, fragments of old episodes and old ideas, and really make them work as best as he can as he bows out as showrunner. So we've had those first 5 episodes, very Dr. Bill heavy, like I say, forming their relationship and dynamic, and really cementing it. So is it a problem that Extremis kind of is a big departure from that? Not in the way that it doesn't focus on the Doctor and Bill, but just in the way that it's a more classic Moffat story. Because the pilot was a Moffat story, but it was much more kind of RCD, it was much more simple and stripped back, in an attempt to make Series 10 more accessible for new viewers. It's more bogged down by continuity to old episodes, there's a convoluted plot, and more challenging concepts, you know, challenging to grasp and understand. Well, the short answer to this is no. Why are people saying that it's a problem? I understand that the first 3 episodes in particular have provided Doctor Who with a soft, fresh start, and as hardcore fans, we've put up with that. There's nothing wrong with a bit of regeneration and renewal, as it were. So after all of that, why shouldn't things ramp up a bit and get slightly more interesting and exciting? I think some fans immediately perceive any hint of continuity, or complicated stories, or challenge as a bad thing. Each episode should be accessible to potentially new audiences, but surely there's got to be some wiggle room. We've given new audiences a chance with these first 5 episodes. If they didn't like the pilot, or didn't bother watching the pilot, then why, 6 episodes in, is there a need to recruit more viewers, to recruit a whole new audience? If every episode of Doctor Who was just like the pilot, I think many viewers, not just fans, would get bored very easily. We've given new viewers that chance, a jumping on point. Now, this is where things can really begin. We are well and truly on the road to the 12th Doctor's demise and regeneration. The monks were absolutely terrifying. Again, fantastic prosthetics work by Millennium Effects. I think the visual impact of the monks definitely helps to make them seem more intimidating. This was especially evident in the scene where the Doctor is trying to escape. The use of blurred shots to reflect his unreliable vision, and quick cuts between shots, worked a treat. Seriously scary stuff. As I've suggested already, these monks have clearly been playing a long game. They have more experience than any other alien invader that we've seen so far, because of their Shadow World technology. So it'll be interesting to see how that influences their tactics and strategies, and how their invasion plays out over the next 2 episodes. I also can't wait to see how real-world politics are brought into play next week, with the UN seemingly getting involved, and lots of countries on the brink of war because of this mysterious pyramid. And just to end on a little side note, I don't know if anybody else has picked up on this, probably not, because it's a pretty obscure thing, but I can't help but think that this Howard person that Moira keeps mentioning, that's Bill's foster mum, well, Howard sounds very similar to Harold, and obviously the big Harold in Doctor Who was Harold Saxon in Series 3, and obviously in Series 10, John Simm's incarnation of the Master is returning, the Harold Saxon one. I mean, maybe it's just a bit of continuity back to the pilot with the same bloke that she's going out on a date with, or whatever she does in the pub with him. But yeah, I can't help but think, is that the John Sim Master in disguise, perhaps? Because it's very reminiscent of the whole Vote Saxon thing in Series 3, where Martha's mum was kind of working secretly behind the scenes to unintentionally give the Master information about the Doctor and Martha. It's probably nothing, but nevertheless, perhaps worth noting. You never know. So overall, I thought Extremis was seriously good. Doctor Who at its very best. Intricate plotting, inspirational directing, and an awesome score. I really can't wait to see where the whole monk story goes in the next 2 episodes of this 3-parter, and of course all the Missy stuff and how that ties into the finale, and the 12th Doctor's upcoming demise. So, thank you so much for watching this review. Please do comment your thoughts on Extremis in the comments below, and I'll see you next week for my review of The Pyramid at the End of the World.